Good morning, everyone. This is Jeffe Kennedy, author of Epic Fantasy Romance. I'm here with my first cup of coffee. Ah, delightful. Today is Monday, October 7th. I feel like 7th of October has some significance, but for the life of me, can't imagine what. So I think we'll just forge onward. I hope you all had a great weekend. I did. I got through my proofreader queries, author queries uh, on Never the Roses. There were just 40 of them, which I figure is pretty good. Not too bad, huh? And some of them were, quite a few of them were surprisingly persnickety. In fact, one was a very good catch on persnickety where I apparently left the S out of persnickety. I meant to check on that because it was hyphenated in the typeset. I think they don't really do typesetting anymore. I hope they don't. But anyway, it was because of the line wrap, it was PER hyphen and the nickety on the next line. And the proofreader had been very surprised to discover that pernickety is actually a British usage, which I didn't know, and wanted to know if that's what I intended. So it was super tempting to say, yeah, that's what I intended. But no, I did mean persnickety. I think I mentioned that my copy editor was just fantastic at not being overly persnickety. There's another word I want to use there, and I'm trying not to. I'm trying to be gracious. Uh, and it's certainly a proofreader's job to call out little teeny tiny details, but some of them are like, is this really important? And it's well, kitty. So I don't know. It's an exercise in patience for me because sometimes it feels, oh, what is the word I want? Like there's almost, I'm sure they don't necessarily mean it, but there's always that sense of being corrected. And there's this sense of tisk tisk. Did you really mean to do this? Um, yeah, although they did call out this one line that is really cool. And they said that they didn't understand what I was trying to say with it. And I was looking at it and I was like, I don't understand what I was trying to say, except that it sounds really lyrical and cool. Um, so I didn't know what to do with it. I punted it back. We could see if like people come up with a correction. I'll even tell you all the phrase. I probably won't put this online anywhere else. So you get to be, here's your little in for listening to the podcast. But I had the line saying feline in form and function. And which sounds pretty great, right? And actually makes sense, but it doesn't make sense in the context of the rest of the paragraph because it's sort of like, well, but she is feline in form and, well, anyway. But it's such a great phrase, right? Feline in form and function that I don't know. I don't want to get rid of it. We'll see if they make me. And by this, I should caveat for all those people out there, especially the indie authors, the self-publishers, you know who you are, um, who will say, traditional publishers make authors do things and I want to have complete control. It's like, it's more if they make me, if they convince me otherwise, if they insist, if they think it's really important. I can tell you all that I am definitely enjoying writing A Rose in the Mirror, knowing that it's going to go through outside editing because there's stuff that I'm putting in there that's like, well, if this is wrong, somebody's going to correct me on it. And it's nice to know that people have my back that way. Uh, Related to that, I also this weekend got an email from my audiobook narrator on Reluctant Wizard. So great news for you audiobook listeners. She's done with it. It's gone to her editor, and which means it should be up soon. But she sends me the list of typos that she finds as she reads, because it's nothing like having someone read your book out loud to find every mistake. And she found 13. 13. And it was, and I went in and I corrected them in my final doc, and I will upload a new version so that they're corrected. But I don't know if I mentioned this on here, but one of the very first reviews of Reluctant Wizard, I think it was the second one that got posted, word reviews, not just ranking. Somebody, this gal in the UK, said that she had paid £5, £4.99 for this book, and it was riddled with typos, and that she felt like, and she also called the book like wildly clever and inventive, but she took it down from 4 stars to 3 stars because of, she said there were at least 5 typos. Ha ha ha, there were at least 13. Joke's on you. um, and I was like, wow, so, wildly inventive and clever is only worth so much, but you get a whole star off for 5 typos. So it's like, 20% of a star is per typo. And somehow the price factored into that. And I know normally complain about these things. I mean, it's her thing, if she wants. And another reviewer said something about the typos, and I was like, okay, fine. And the thing is no, I don't hire a proofreader for my self-published books. Mea culpa. So this is what I get, because I don't want to spring for a proofreader. It's expensive. It's $600-700 for a proofreader. It adds a week onto the time. And I'm usually sliding in under the wire. I'm fortunate that I write pretty clean, and so normally I don't miss a lot of stuff. And I do an out loud proof. I read the book out loud to myself. However, I did that out loud proof while I was in Tucson, while my mom was in the hospital. And we were trying to figure out what was wrong with her. And so, I mean, that's not an excuse. Oh, hang on. He was ready to go out. So anyway, yes, I'm responsible for what I put out. I'm responsible for my choice not to have a proofreader. I am responsible for those 13 typos. But let me tell you all, one of the ones that my audiobook narrator sent to me, I stared at it for a good 5 minutes trying to figure out where the typo was. And what I had written was, enjoying the casual affection he showered on her at every opportunity. On. I cannot tell you how long it took for my eyes to pick out on. So I don't know. Whatever. I'm sorry if you all were disappointed in the typo quality. And I do feel a certain amount of chagrin, because I have complained about some self-published books and the mistakes that they have in them. The hominin mistakes drive me crazy. Like the people who have stuff like the King's Reign, and they spell it REIN instead of REIGN. I'm judgmental, so I suppose I reap what I sow. But yeah, so it was interesting to get that final list. And also, it was a correction kind of weekend, I suppose. Dealing with editing is always an interesting thing. I was recently reminded of the quote by H.G. Wells, who said, or purportedly said, you can never tell these days, but no, I remember this from pre-internet days. that no passion in the world is equal to the passion to alter someone else's draft. And I love that quote because it is so true. I had like I sent out Never the Roses for a couple of author endorsement quotes to, like some of my friends. And so it's like at this point, and this has been going around on threads too. One of the recent things is like this confusion over the advanced reader copy going out, and do you want feedback? And there are like some ARC readers who say, well, it's my job to provide feedback. And it's like, no, 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 no. When you receive an ARC, your job is to give a review. And mostly, I mean, if the author is sending it to you, you're supposed to say something nice or don't say anything at all. And I mean, lest I get in trouble, no one's forcing you to give it 5 stars. No one's asking you to falsify a review or anything like that. If you want to review it negatively, if you feel like that's the right thing to do, then you can, um, and probably should, especially if you feel like other readers will benefit from hearing your take on the book. But generally, an advance review copy, especially sent by the author, is a gesture of trust, of, are you interested in supporting this book? Which means you don't have to. And certainly I've done this many times. People have asked me for blurbs, which I know my publisher is now calling an endorsement quote, because, and I've talked about this before, but self-publishers tend to call the back cover copy the blurb. So like what you put up on Amazon, what Amazon calls the description is called the blurb in self-publishing circles, which has confused things because traditional publishing calls it the back cover copy, but if it's an ebook, there's not a back cover. And the blurb has always been the, I love this book. So now they're saying endorsement quote, which is better. But you'll notice the careful phrasing on that. Endorsement quote. It's not review. It's not content warning. It's an endorsement quote. And so when you send out these books and you ask your friends or you ask your friends of friends and you say, would you be willing to read my book? I'm looking for an endorsement quote. That means that you're expected to endorse it, right? And if you can't endorse it, no harm, no foul. And for those of you who don't know, the standard in the industry is to simply say, oh, I couldn't get to it. I didn't have time. And that is our very polite way of extracting ourselves. It's kind of the, when you're on the phone call and you say, well, I'll let you go now, even though the other person has not expressed any interest in being let go. These are our polite fictions that we employ in order to be kind to one another. Pursuant to this, if you have asked someone to read your book and potentially provide an endorsement quote, and they don't get back to you, that is your cue to leave it lie, right? It's, they didn't get back to you. And I have had people, because when people ask me, I always say, well, I don't know if I'll be able to get to it, right? Don't know if I'll have time, very busy, which is actually true. Sometimes I don't get to things, shockingly enough. But also that means I started to read it and I didn't like it and I couldn't endorse it. And so if somebody doesn't reply to you, you don't bug them about it. And I've had people bug me, come back and say, well, were you going to send that? And it's like, oh, no, you don't do that, because I need to have that out, right? So I would never pursue anyone to say, well, that's not entirely true. Grace, I know you've been at Romanticon. I want to hear about it. Grace, you did promise me an endorsement quote, and it's time. But she's my bestie, so I can tell her she also has to say something nice because she's my bestie. I mean, that gets into rules of friendship, right? No, that's not true. I should probably like not spread false information on here. Uh, Grace offered to give me an endorsement quote. Otherwise, I would not ask her. I would not make her, because I do have authors with whom I am very good friends, um, that we don't like each other's work, and I know they don't like mine, and it's fine. I mean, you don't have to. It's not a rule. So anyway, what surprised me was is that sometimes authors, like, you send out stuff for an endorsement quote, and I had several people suggest changes to the book, um, which put me in mind of this H.G. Wells quote. And they were all, I mean, like, three different people suggested changes to the book, and they were totally different changes. And I was thinking, well, there is no passion like the passion to alter another person's draft. And I think even though these people should know, it's too late. By the time you are sending it out for endorsement quotes, it's too late to suggest revisions. But I think some people just can't help themselves, right? They have to find something. So, one final thing. I was thinking about, as we all are in the US and apparently around the world, US politics. Um, I saw this very strange meme. They've been, ever since the vice presidential debate, a certain contingent has been trying to uh, fr- frame J.D. Vance as a hottie, which, I mean, I'm sorry, I laugh hysterically at that. Like, someone, oh God, I don't even know. I don't follow closely enough. But someone like posted this thing about how her uh, teenage daughter and her friends were watching the debate and giggling over how handsome J.D. Vance is and his baby blues. And I think they were supposed to be like 13 or 14, something like that. And everybody is like, no. When a 13-year-old girl has a sleepover, they are not watching the vice presidential debate, A, and B, they are not giggling over some guy J.D. Vance's age being a hottie. That's no, no. So, but then along those lines with this same thing, they had like done a cut of J.D. Vance doing this little sideways smirky thing, which I find so irritating. And they're like talking about J.D. Vance's baby blues, like this was a cute image. And and it said something about let's see, I have to get like J.D. Vance's baby blues and Sydney Sweeney's curves. Why conservatives something or another are loving these people? I don't know. It was a headline for an article that I was not going to read, but it had that smirky picture of J.D. Vance looking sideways and smirking, and and they were. I was thinking about it. I had to look up who Sydney Sweeney is, and she's a blonde actress who has been in several things now, and I mean, sort of voluptuous, but like not someone that I would say, oh yeah, no wonder they're talking about her curves. But it reminded me of a long time ago when I was in this martial arts school, and the teacher used a lot of this same rhetoric that's going on in politics now, that's sort of coming from that Trump Vance side. And I remember that, like, a big thing he would talk about, he would ask the guys in the class if they preferred Jennifer Aniston or Angelina Jolie. And of course, this was like back in the era of Brad Pitt leaving Jennifer Aniston for Angelina Jolie. And now of course it turns out that Brad Pitt is really just kind of a general shit, and like his children are changing their names so as not to be associated with him and all of these things. But never mind there. Of course, this was all about this male focus on the women. So would they prefer to date Jennifer Aniston or Angelina Jolie? And one thing that I'm going to, and they all had an opinion. And by the way, the correct answer was Jennifer Aniston, because Jennifer Aniston was perceived as being, I don't know, biddable. Um, like not like strong-willed Angelina Jolie. So they were all required to say Jennifer Aniston. And which I also find very funny the way things have gone because, like Jennifer Aniston is no pushover. She's no trad wife material, people. She, if you watch Morning Show and all of the things Jennifer Aniston has done since, it's like they just had no idea. And they see like this blonde woman who's very pretty and, like maybe conflating her with her Rachel character on Friends. But then the other interesting thing about that is that these guys go through this exercise, right? These guys who have no hope in hell, these mediocre, if that guys, exercising this power of choice of like, oh no, I would never date Angelina Jolie. I would pick Jennifer Aniston. And it's like, well, neither one of them is going to have you. So I don't even know why we're talking about it. But yeah, it's this, here, let me pick out a feminine ideal, and this is who you're supposed to choose. That's been on my mind. So, on that note, 21 minutes in, I think I'll sign off. Hope you all have a terrific week, and I will talk to you all on Friday. You all take care. Bye-bye.